What up, what up, what up, New football fans all over the world? It is your boy, Mac the Giants fan, here with my guy, the super dope co host, Adam Costas. Y'all know what time it is. It's time for that real deal NFC East roundup. Punch that intro. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Real Deal NFC East Roundup. I am Mac the Giants fan here with my guy, the super dope co-host Adam Costas. Man, how you feeling today, Adam?
I am good. I know that you're not as good. You're feeling under the weather, so we'll try to, keep the ship going, even though my man is kind of feeling under the weather. But we got a great show for you.
Absolutely, absolutely. We about to, hey, what's going on, Kenneth? Man, yeah, they fired
Are
Jerome
you writing are
Henderson.
you writing our shows? Because so we just literally said we're gonna speak about that in a few minutes.
What's going on? And yeah, so we'll get to all of that in a minute. What's going on, Alex? How you
Big Blue
doing,
in the
man?
Bronx.
Thanks for stopping in, bro. But yeah, fellas. Let's get right to it, man. Let's talk a little bit about the Cowboys deciding not being able to make a come to an agreement with Mike McCarthy, and now he's going to be moving on, and they're now in a coaching search. Got on the Cowboys, Adam.
We kind of spoke about this last week and how it would play out if I'm Mike McCarthy. I want a longer deal. If I'm Jerry Jones, I want to negotiate something probably a little shorter with this lack of success they had. Well, that's basically what happened. They couldn't agree on terms and they walked away. And so they parted ways. They gave it about a week, which probably means they had a couple negotiations. Mike said his piece, Jerry said his piece, and away we are. And here we are. The Cowboys are looking for a coach, which you probably thought they were going to part ways anyways. But it's interesting to think that you wanted a guy back, but you just couldn't come to an agreement. So he'll probably end up with Chicago or New Orleans. And good move for Mike McCarthy. Somebody posted a stat the other day. I shouldn't say the other day, today. And let me see if I can find it in Twitter. But it was like basically Mike McCarthy and Tomlin both have like the same playoff record, the same win record, the same like everything. But yet we praise Mike Tomlin more so than we praise Mike McCarthy. You know, and it's kind of interesting that yeah, he probably would do well in Chicago. But it's probably interesting for the fact that um, is is that we praise Tomlin for everything that he does, but then we shit on Mike McCarthy and say we're not he's not a good coach. Yet we pine to get Tomlin in the building, but we don't if we don't for McCarthy. It's just kind of interesting to see. So I think he'll go with a franchise like we said, like in Chicago. Look at Chicago, right? They have a decent defense. They need an offense. They had a defensive coordinator. They need an offense. You know that Mike Zimmer knows how to identify defensive coordinators. He probably could bring over Mike Zimmer if he wanted to, or pluck somebody from the Cowboys tree or something like that. He's going to know how to run an offense. He's got a young quarterback there in Chicago. And let's be real, if he doesn't land Chicago, there's always New Orleans, who also is looking for coaches. And if I was the Jets, I'd probably call up McCarthy too. There's going to be a lot of suitors to for Mike McCarthy and his services, and I just think you know it's odd. But the Cowboys, as somebody mentioned, are in news for another reason because of their coaching search as well.
Yeah, we were discussing that a little bit. Uh, Alex kind of just posted something up here, like commented, like, "Yeah, this Dion, what's your take on the like this Dion Sanders and stuff going with the Cowboys?" I mean, personally, I feel like I don't think Deion Sanders is necessarily NFL coach quite yet, not an NFL head coach anyway. That's how I feel about it personally. I don't know how you feel about that. I don't. You think kind of agree with? I kind of agree here with Alex. It's just something to kind of get people talking. I don't really foresee this, coming to fruition here. But that's just how
Um,
I feel about it. What's your take on that?
well, the thing is this. First off, the reason why I hate this take, this cowboy shit, with Dion, is people are saying, well, he's going to trade up for Shador, he's going to do this, we're going to get Dak Prescott, and it just leads to a bunch of nonsense, as if we're playing Madden or something, where we go down these rabbit holes, like, oh, well, if he does this, this is going to happen. No, people, this is not fantasy land, okay? And you make a good point about stirring the pot, right? You said right now, Mac, that Dion is not quite ready for being an NFL head coach. And maybe this is his gateway in, so to speak, to that. Why not call up an old friend in Jerry Jones, talk about the Cowboy opening, get your name in the circle of coaching hats. Now, guess what? Deion Sanders will be linked to any and every job next year if he has more success at Colorado and things like that. This is how you get your foot in the door, right? Eventually, I bet you he wants to go to the NFL as well. But to me, I think he is starting to build his starting to open the door a crack, right? He's peeking in to the NFL landscape. Why wouldn't you do it with Jerry Jones and that team? And Jerry Jones would be the guy that would really hire him out the gate. That's a connection that everyone's going to make. However, if Dion decides to come back, it'll be on his accord. It'll be when he does and how he does it. Do I think he's an NFL coach? I think he's getting there. He's got a lot of head coaching experience. He's turned around, program at Jackson State. He turned around Colorado. Right now, he's turned around. Right, so he has an idea of how it works. He already knows how to be in the league. Right now, I think it works because he is dealing with the minor leagues right now. What I mean by that is because you're getting paid in college, is becoming a minor league. And there was a excerpt from his Being Dion or whatever documentary he has out, where he's basically disciplining his kids, saying you can't wear slides to class, you got to sit up straight, you can't rock a do-rag or whatever the case may be, certain rules, right? He's like, you're going to respect us off the field and on the field. And I think Deion Sanders can bring that because he's a Super Bowl winning cornerback. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a renowned broadcaster, right? He's very much an entertainer, but he knows how to turn it on the football field. You don't become great because Deion Sanders, just because you're Deion Sanders. You have to work at it as well. And so for me, I think this is a chance for him to get back in the NFL circles. Like Jerry Jones will probably say, oh, he had a great interview. We're going to move on with somebody else, but he was great, blah, blah, blah. And guess what? Next year, when there's another coaching hire come out, i.e. the Giants draft Shador Sanders, they fire their coaches. And guess what? Deion Sanders comes in and now is the head coach of the New York Giants. No, I'm just kidding, folks. But what I'm saying is people – when you get into those rings, it's like when you're applying for a job and you go to your friend's job and kind of apply, kind of get your name in there and in the circles. And then guess what? Now you're being talked about all over the place. Isn't he being talked about now? I don't think he's going to leave personally right now because he has a lot of recruits that he made, right? He has a lot of commitments he's already made. Not saying you can't say screw those kids because we've seen it all the time. I'm just saying right now, I feel like he's in a good place with this program. He still has some unfinished business. I think at Colorado to kind of, grow that program and put it in good hands. And I think when the time is right, you'll know. I don't think
I can see that. Like you said, I think he has some unfinished business at Colorado. I feel like, and I agree with you there from that aspect. But like you said, maybe this is just a way to get his name kind of out there a little bit in the NFL circles. I mean, I think he's maybe. I personally think he may be a year or two away from legitimately stepping up to being an NFL head coach, though.
If he's thinking about it now, right, it's only going to become more and more apparent as we go through, right? And again, like I said, putting your name in with the Cowboys doesn't hurt Deion Sanders and doesn't hurt the Cowboys. What it does is it makes the Cowboys look like the Cowboys, but it makes Deion look, okay, maybe he will make a splash in the NFL, and there's teams all over the NFL that could use a head coach like Deion, a leader of men, right? So
I
to
mean,
me,
I agree. I mean, I think one thing Dion does have is the respect of 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 football
people,
players in general. I mean,
right?
obviously Deion Sanders one of the greatest to play the game. Period.
That's
So
what Bill Belichick
yeah,
kind of wrote on, right? He could put as he got older and won championships, he could be like, "Listen, I win. Look at my rings," and you're like, "Oh, okay, I'll join your program." But then you got guys like the bunch, the Brady, the dumb bunch over in New York, who can't do that because they don't know how to win. They don't know what to do, right? And again, the Cowboys are one of the most prestige. I wouldn't say prestige, but one of the most recognizable franchises in the world. And Deion Sanders, everybody knows Deion Sanders. If you're in the football lore, he's on every commercial. He's in a commercial with Affleck, right? He's on, different types of commercials. He's on TV. He has documentaries about him, and so, and he's in the college spotlight as well right now. So, this is like I said, it's another way to get his name in the circles. There's a lot of college coaches right now being interviewed across the board for some NFL jobs, but Deion Sanders is the one that everyone's following, and we all know that sometimes he's gonna be a coach if he's this successful in the college ranks, right? Why wouldn't he want to elevate his game and try the pros out?
yeah, I definitely can agree with that. Here's another name, interesting name, possibly that you think maybe the Cowboys could be interested in once he's finished his season up with the Philadelphia Eagles here. Kellen Moore.
Obviously, yes.
I don't know about
Obviously,
him.
yes.
I don't know about him sabotaging the birds, but at the end of the
I doubt
day,
that.
once the season is over, once their season is over, he's going to probably be a pretty hot commodity as well amongst
You
these
mean
teams
what
looking
Dan
for
Quinn
head
did to the
coaches.
Cowboys last year?
So I mean, maybe perhaps he could be another name that the Cowboys would definitely be taking some serious, especially since he has a history with the franchise as well. And Dak Prescott, a couple of his better years were with Kellen Moore
Right.
out there calling the plays, man. So that'd be an
Uh,
interesting one to.
I don't think he's going to sabotage the Eagles, but I do believe because think about it like this: the further he goes with the Eagles, the more money he makes, the more legitimacy he gets. Right? It's like with Cliff Kingsbury. I don't know if Cliff Kingsbury is going to get any jobs, but if he ends up being in the circle next year and we need a coach, I'm calling him up because look what he's doing. Look at Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had one of his best seasons offensively. Yes, they have a ton of players, but you saw what happened last year. They had a ton of players. DeAndre Swift wasn't a great running back, the same as Barkley, but he was a respectable running back. And they couldn't do anything with their offensive coordinator last year. This guy comes in. He's been with Justin Herbert. He's had a good season there. Dak Prescott had a couple of his good seasons there, and he's learned under Mike McCarthy. And it would make a great fit for the Cowboys to get him, right? I could see it happening. It's an easy fit. You go there, you get Kellen Moore, you you he's the offense. He can figure out the defensive coordinator. I don't know what he'll do. I don't know if he'll pick somebody from the Eagles staff or if he's already got guys that are lined up. But the teams in the playoffs, you got to kind of comb through, right? Those are the teams you want to start to kind of build your team around because these are success. They've been around success. The Eagles have been good for a while now. They've been good before Kellen got there. They'll still be good probably after Kellen got there, but they're right now on the hunt for a Lombardi. So if he ends up making the Eagles a champion, I'm sure he's going to be lined up for that job a lot more than than normally would have. And connections matter. We connect the dots all the time. I mean, think about this: Joe Judge is hired because John Mara called Bill Belichick, who endorsed him, right? So if Kellen Moore goes over to the Cowboys and he says, "Look what I did with the offenses here. You know my history." It's an easier fit for Jerry Jones to say, "You've got the job," more so than an unknown commodity on taking a flyer on a guy like a Ben Johnson, who, yeah, he worked well in Detroit, but will he work well here? You have tangible proof, factual evidence of production from your quarterback, who is still going to be on the roster that you've just paid a lot of money to. So.
Okay, I see where you coming from that standpoint. Is it if he moves on, which is a strong possibility, that then the Eagles have to come through another offensive coordinator. And okay, I got what you're saying.
Well, he doesn't care
I mean,
about
the
that.
Eagles, they kind of talented. with the kind of talent the Eagles have, man, I honestly don't think it really matters that much, to be honest. I mean, I think I can go in there and coach the Eagles offense at this point.
Throw it
But
to 11. Throw it to your receivers.
like just turn around and hand it 26.
I mean, think about it. You could do 3 things. I mean, you can play backyard football with them. Here, go long. I got you. I'll hit you on there, right? You know, and then you turn around and hand the ball. Like, I mean, come on. I mean, when you have that kind of offensive firepower, you don't have to do any coaching. You just have to make sure you're calling. I mean, sure, it's a strategy game, the defense, but at the end of the day, it's a one-on-one matchup. Go win your one-on-one matchup. Yeah. You know, if the quarterback looks at 11, if he's double covered, I go to 6. You know what I mean?
You know, by the way, thanks for stopping in too, Joel, and welcome to the stream too. Appreciate you stopping in, by the way, buddy.
Yes, please tell your friends.
So Kellen seems to be a mediocre in the last couple. Kellen seems to be mediocre in last couple halves. I'm not sure what you're trying to decipher.
I think he's saying in the last couple halves, he's been indecisive. But they play defense on the other side too, right? And they've been a team that's been, you know, they put in a backup quarterback, right? And they won a game against another backup team, right? I get it. Like, I understand why they struggle, but you can't just look at the last games and then call that a microcosm of the season. You have to look at the whole body of work, right? People tend to, in the NFL, we do this a lot. And I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. We always look at, like, Sam Darnold. I'll use him for example. We all know who Sam Darnold is. He didn't have a good game. And we'll get more into it in Premium Takes tomorrow. But the point is, a lot of people are hating this guy. I don't want him for the Giants, by the way. But they're hating on this guy because of the one game that he had. And they're not saying, well, the guy led to a 14-2 record. He had one of his best seasons. They just remember for what you've done for me lately. What was the lasting image of you, right? And so, you know, and so for me, I can't just judge by the last couple of games, because the last couple of games they played, they've been in cruise control mode halfway through, you know. But this is the playoffs. Well, if they lose to the Eagles, if they lose to the Rams on Sunday, and we'll get into the game, and we might as well transition to the Eagles, and since we're talking about them now, and their game, they played a wild card game. I forget who they played again. Who did they play on Sunday?
The Eagles played the Packers.
Okay, so the Packers. So let's get into this game, if you don't mind, because since we're talking about the Eagles anyway, so might as well dive in. Oh, unless you want. Oh, wait. Let's talk about the Giants, and then we'll dive into the Eagles for a minute, just because I want to get over this Giants stuff. I don't really want to spend time on us for the majority of the show talking about the Eagles and the Commanders, more so than the shit show that is the New York Giants. So you want to take it away, Mac?
Yeah, the New York Giants. Where do we begin? Today, news coming out: Jerome Henderson fired. The safeties coach fired. I don't know. They're doing all this cleaning house stuff, but they're keeping the guys that have, I think, brought this team down the most. Are the guys that their jobs are safe and secure. It's the quarterback search it's on. I mean, it's definitely on. And now you're hearing a lot of different various stories coming out of Giants camp, who they're interested in, who they're not interested in, and this, that, and the other. One way or another, this team still has one main agenda this offseason, and that is to first and foremost fix that quarterback room, and then you got to start plugging in the rest of the holes on this football team some way or another, man. Right about now, I still think that everything about this team is embarrassing. Their approach to everything just seems to be way off. And as much as important as this offseason is going to be for the New York Giants, I just don't know what to really expect at this point, because I just think it's going to be a little bit more of a struggle than most Giant fans are realizing. I think people are banking on just the New York name to want to lure people in and attract people to this nonsense, but it just takes more than that in this day and era. Once upon a time, that was enough, but it's just not. We're not in that same era anymore, man. Thanks a lot, Joel. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate you, man. See you again sometime soon, buddy.
Enjoy. Tell your friends. Let the world know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's I don't know. I don't know. How do you feel about the firing of a coach that's been here for quite a while, Jerome Henderson? He's been on this staff for quite some time, man. How do you feel about these moves today?
I think they needed a pound of flesh, and they got it with Jerome Henderson. They didn't fire the defensive coordinator outright. As a matter of fact, Brian Dable endorsed him. Um, and so they needed to scapegoat somebody, and this was their scapegoat. And that's what this move is. It's a scapegoating move, without question. I mean, this guy has survived two regime changes, right? And all of a sudden now he doesn't know how to coach. Now it's his fault that Deontay Banks doesn't fit a system that doesn't work for him. He worked well in the Wink Martindale system. He worked well in the Joe Judge system because they had Patrick Graham in that system. They had Patrick Graham,
Yep.
which is the same kind of thing, right? So, all of a sudden now he doesn't know how to coach. No, it's just they're being jerks because what John Mara said, oh, everybody went up and down the field on us, so we need to get that. Well, guess what? Okay, who's coming here? There's who's going to come here and replace those guys? Because if I'm a coach and I'm looking at if I'm Jerome Henderson, I'm like, thank God I'm out of here. Thank God I'm out of here. And this shit show
exactly.
that is the New York Giants, I can go show you. And like every other coach that's left the Giants so far, right? Mike, the offensive line coach, Bobby Johnson, comes to mind. Everyone blamed Bobby Johnson for the offensive line troubles. Well, Carmen Brasillo's here, and we still have offensive line troubles. But Bobby Johnson goes to the Commanders,
Washington.
and all of a sudden, they look like the Hog Mollies back in the day, the Hogettes back in the day in the 80s. Like they're moving the football, they're running down people's throats and things like that. And all I heard all year was this guy was a bad O-line coach. So now he goes off and has a good career. So what's going to happen when Jerome Henderson goes to a team and their DBs are leading the league in interceptions, take that and drops and pass breakups and all that stuff? What's going to happen then? And then on the flip side, if I'm a coach, who is coming here that's not getting a promotion that needs a job, right? It's not going to be a legitimate DB's coach. It's going to be like a DB assistant coach, like they got rid of with the safety, who needs a job to come up here, right, and do that and say, hey, let me work with this lame duck coaching staff. God forbid they fucking suck. I'm out of a job and back on the street. Okay, a young guy can do that. A young, defensive assistant, special teams assistant kind of guy, like that type of shit. Those type of coaches are going to want the job because they're going to want to better their platform and go there. Whether or not it works out is a different story. I worked for the New York Giants, blah, 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 right? A viable coach is not going to want to come here because Wink Martindale left, okay? He got canned when Dayball was the issue. You had a defensive guy in Denard Wilson who didn't want to come here because he didn't trust the coaching staff. So we ended up with Shane Bowen, who's now back, who didn't get to hire anybody, but now is fired. Like this team does not make sense. And we're blaming the defense. The defense is who we're blaming. The defense, who was leading the league in sacks at one point, and people told me it was going to be a top 10 defense. We're blaming them for the debacle of the offense. Okay, because God forbid Brian Dable, who's an offensive guru, by the way, those are his words, not mine. An offensive genius, right? Comes here and we score less than 14 points a game. As a matter of fact, we score less points every year since he's been here on offense. And the last year, since he's been calling the plays, he's been the worst offensive coordinator in the league. We had more points than Mike Kafka as our offensive coordinator, who, by the way, he has to now give up play calling duties, hint, hint, wink, wink, to somebody else. So now what is he going to do? Go grovel to Mike Kafka and say, hey, here's your job back. I'm sorry they fucked it up now, but I'm going to blame it and throw you under the bus when we suck next year and the quarterback's not developed. It's like, it's all ridiculous, right? And now you get this message where, the Giants don't like Shedeur Sanders, and Dable is now getting a chance to pick the coach, but he won't be able to pick the quarterback, but he won't be able to study them till like draft season. I'm like, this is a mess. And the fact that we're cutting a DB coach who made a lot of these DBs, like Nick McLeod and all these guys, serviceable.
Yep.
Like how are you gonna fire a DB coach when Andrew Phillips, who has had no interceptions in since high school, actually plays well this year? What position group does he play in, Mac?
He's a D-back. He's a nickel
And
corner.
wouldn't you say that he was pretty good this season?
I'd say he was since he was on the all-rookie team.
And so let me get this straight. A coach that coached a player in his position to the all rookie team is getting fired. I don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, think about
Oh,
think
yeah.
about that logically.
There's two D-backs on the all-rookie team for the New York Giants this year, too.
Oh
Two
yeah,
D-backs made it on the
Tyler
all-rookie
Newman.
team. Oh, yeah. Tyler
Oh,
Nugent also. Yeah,
so the
as
safeties
well.
coach, who you also canned, who got this kid to all rookie teams, you're going to say, you know what? Your services are not needed here anymore. You fucking blow. Like, give me a break. How many all pros does the defensive coordinator have? One all pro. We have Brian Burns here. He had 8 sacks. Thanks a lot, Brian Burns. We're paying you $100 million for 8 sacks a year. You could have got that in Carolina. Like, what are we doing? But the two DBs who played the best, who were here for a reason, right? All of a sudden now get fired because we need a pound of flesh. And instead of firing fucking Shane Bowen for his atrocities as a defensive coordinator, you're going to fire the defensive backs coach, both of them who have got, Mac just said it, 2 guys on the all rookie team. But here we are as New York Giants, and we do the same shit all over again. Oh, you know what? All rookie team, fuck it. We're going to fire you. Goodbye. Like, how come nobody on the offensive side of the football is getting fired? How come nobody on the offensive side of the football is getting fired? Nobody. Not a single person
It's
is getting
unbelievable.
fired.
Unbelievable to me that not
We've
one offensive coach has been let go. Not one.
And
Not
we've let
one.
go of the linebacker coach last year, the defensive coordinator last year. All right. Now we're letting rid of the DB coach. There's not going to be anybody else to fire on the defense next year. We're going to have to fire somebody else. But the offense, who has been abysmal for the past 2 years, absolutely the worst offense I've watched 2 seasons with bad quarterback play and fucking stagnant route trees and everything like that. You
Are
don't
we
fire
talking
a
about the offense that averaged 10 points a game at home this season? We're talking about
10
that offense,
points a
right? 10 points
game
a game at home this season.
and you fire the DBs coach? What in the hell are we doing? 10 points a game. And you don't fire anybody on the offense. Not one person, not the running backs coach, not the offensive line coach, nothing. You fired nothing. Nobody. You fired Bobby Johnson because you needed to, because the offensive line gave him 80 sacks last year. But this year you come in and you don't fire a damn thing. You, as a matter of fact, you promote somebody who basically the player said did nothing like I said he would. And that's Mike Kafka. He stood around with his thumb up his ass because you didn't give him a title to do anything. So now, with his dirty thumb, he's going to come back and he's now going to be your fucking play caller because you got nowhere else to go. But not one coach, not the tight ends coach, not the receivers coach. By the way, the receivers coach, right? We have an all pro rookie at wide receiver. Why don't we just fire him? You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know what? All pro, get out of here. Get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, I get there were some shining moments on the offensive side, but it still was unacceptable. But yet you're getting mad at the defense who kept you in games. Is it their fault? The defense who kept you in the Bengals game? The defense who kept you in the Cowboys game? Was it their fault? Your offense couldn't do shit?
Exactly. Exactly. That's my problem with John Mara a couple weeks ago, throwing the defense under the bus and the way he did. It's like, are you kidding me? This defense literally, it wasn't the greatest by no means, but it kept you in football games. It played well enough to win some football games, and this offense could have only done their job and put fucking points on the board. And the fact that it seems like the offense isn't even being punished in any way. I mean, look at Malik Neighbors, take him for example. Look what he did with the incompetence of the quarterback position for the Giants this season. Could you imagine that guy with a Joe Burrow or just a Lamar or just any other Josh Allen, any kind of a competent quarterback? I mean, I know those guys don't grow on trees, but just you know what I'm going with that. Like, imagine what he would have done with a competent quarterback what he was able to accomplish with The New York Giants quarterback room.
I mean, think
Talking
about it.
Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito, Tim Boyle. Look at he was
That's
able to
4
accomplish
guys.
with those
He
guys.
caught passes from 4 quarterbacks. How many? That's a fucking trivia question right there. How many quarterbacks did fucking Malik Neighbors play with in 2024? He played with 4 fucking quarterbacks in 2024. He caught touchdown passes from fucking 3 different quarterbacks in 2024. Like that's unheard of. You know why that's done? Is because you have bad teams who play with you, and receivers are going to get theirs. Imagine, and I would have been right, by the way. I'm going to throw some flowers my way because I said he should have 1,300 yards this season. He has 1,200, and he missed 2 games. Okay, so thank you very much, Adam, who nobody listens to when he has a take because they're too busy worried about their takes, right? I was going to be right. This guy was a stud, and I knew he was going to be a stud, but did he help us win games? How many games did Malik Willis help us win? 2, 3, maybe 1 or 2. He didn't help us win the Seattle game. You know, he did win the Browns game because he caught a touchdown. Right? He helped us win the Colts game. Great. I'm glad we drafted him 6 overall to win 2 games. 2 games. By the way, with him still being in the offense, we still scored 10 points a game at home. By the way, 10 points.
At home, 10 points.
Mind you, we scored 45 points in one of the games at home. So that is bad. But yet not one coach is God dang it, I cannot believe John Mara would sit there and blame the defense when he's watching this game and his offense can't do anything. Daniel Jones has 2 guys wide the fuck open in Germany, and it's not his fault. They can't do a goddamn thing about it. It wasn't him who fumbled the ball. No, it's fucking Tyrone Tracy. Does he get benched for fumbling the ball? No. Does he get reprimanded? No. Malik Neighbors, does he get in trouble for shit? No. But you blame Deontay Banks. Oh, you know what? Fuck him. He can't cover Justin Jefferson. Bench his ass. The lack of effort. Give me a break. Okay? This is what I mean. You're off. You are. Look at Andy Reid. Okay? If Andy Reid offense sucked, we'd be like, Andy Reid, what the hell is going on with you? His offense is on point. Okay? If you look at teams around the league, look at DeMeco Ryans. What did DeMeco Ryans defense do last week? It did exactly what it needed to do. It put the clamps down in the playoffs. Okay? His defense is good. Right? He built a defense. We know him as a defensive coordinator. And he's doing it. Right? When you come in and you're a specialty coach, like Brian Dable was to fix a quarterback who was a bum, and you go in reverse, you go from 20 points to 14 points to 10 points, that is not good. But yet, on the other hand, you go and fire one of the best coaches on your staff for what? Who has 2 players in his position group in all rookie teams, and basically made chicken soup out of chicken shit, because of you, right? You cut Nick McLeod when the injuries were bereft across the board. Okay, you had him play, and you had him try to get Deontay Banks not give up. Okay, Deontay Banks did what he could, but this defense wasn't for him, and that's why he played the way he played. You had a nickel corner who was all over the field. You drafted in the 2nd round, put heavy resources in. 3rd round, you put heavy resources in. You got a safety who's done well. Dane Belton had one of the best interceptions of his career in the Colts game, and yet you're firing this guy. Make it make sense to me. Make it make sense.
And nothing the Giants do seem to make sense. And speaking of making sense, New York Giants are known for just seeming to want to bring back the nostalgia of old players or coaches or whatever, that just guys that already have an association with this franchise. And speaking of which, there's one on the market that, for what I've been seeing, this is just by way of social media. I don't. A lot of Giant fans seem to just want to be obsessed with, bring Antonio Pierce here. Let's bring Antonio Pierce.
God.
Let's do this and do that. Like, this is just the typical New York
Giant
get
stuck in the same
nonsense. What's going on, Miz?
That's exactly what they do. They live in the past. They rest their hopes in the 4 Lombardis that they got collecting dust in the trophy case over there, and they walk by that every day. I'm like, yeah, Giants pride. Where's the pride? You know, the owner talks out of both sides of his mouth. The GM looks like a fucking hot dog, you know, like a guy who's too happy, just I'm the coolest guy in the room. Look at me, I drive a Corvette, like type of shit. The coach can't call an offense to save his fucking life. Okay, he fires defensive coordinators and coaches all over the place. This is the second year in a row we've had defensive coaches. Okay, but yet, hey, the Giants are a storied franchise. People want to come here. Give me a break. We are the Jets. The only difference between us and if the Jets weren't in New York right now, we'd have nothing to hide behind. We'd literally have nothing to hide behind because the Jets are already a fucking shitstorm of a fucking organization, and they're run ass backwards, as you can see how they're looking for their coach before their GM, right? But if you look at the Giants, they're just the same fucking shit. They are the same fucking shit. They're just the New York Giants, and it's like when the Yankees are bad, right? And the Yankees or Mets are bad. We shit on the Mets all the time because they're the Mets, right? But yet the Yankees, who are laughing stock sometimes themselves, we don't, because they've have 29 championships and ooh, ah, ooh, ooh, ah. No, my friend, your history is what it is. History. It's in the record books. Great. Right now, we're in the present. And presently, you are one of the worst teams in football.
Absolutely. One of the worst run franchises in football right now, currently. It doesn't matter what you were in the 80s. It doesn't matter what you were in the 90s or early 2000s. It would matter, like Adam just said, it matters what you are right now. And right now, the New York Giants are one of the worst run franchises in the NFL. Point blank and period. And I was talking with a coworker, a friend the other day, and I was telling him, I was adamant about how bad the New York Giants quarterback room was this year. And I mean, he was trying to convince me that I'm just looking at it through fan eyes or whatever he was saying, and he was trying to tell me about other teams that have worse quarterback. I'm like, no, they just aren't. I mean, they're just not overall. Not
Is he a Giant fan?
Not complete. No, he's not a Giant fan.
Is he a fan of any team?
He's actually a Cowboys fan. He's actually a Cowboys fan.
Right. So he doesn't know bad quarterback play because he sits there and watches Dak Prescott throw 4,000 yards a season every year and then says, oh, well, no, it stinks when you watch the quarterbacks downright. And that's another thing that we could talk about in this franchise. But this franchise hurts my head because I feel like they're so dumb. They're dumb. They're just dumb. They just do dumb things. And now I don't even know where to go from here with this team. And it's just, we don't have Giant pride anymore. We don't have anything. We're the laughing stock of the league. Okay. Everybody's laughing at us. Nationally, we're getting laughed at. We're the butt of a lot of jokes. Okay. And now we're supposed to all of a sudden be resurrecting ourselves. And people tell me, oh, we don't have a bad roster. No, we're 3-14 people. We didn't get there because we didn't have a bad roster. We got there because we're a bad team. People tell me we didn't tank this year. If we didn't tank, then what the fuck did we do? Because, the only other thing that makes you 3-14 is that you were tanking. And if we're not tanking, then what were we? We were just fucking flat out bad. That's what we were.
I mean, that's what we were. We lost, like you said, especially if you go back to the earlier part of the year. I mean, earlier part of the year, we were losing games solely because the offense just had an inability to score points. I mean, look, we can go to week 2 against that Washington game. That's a game the New York Giants obviously should have won.
Yep.
And it's stupid things like you going into that game knowing the stats of Graham Gano, knowing that he wasn't 100% healthy. You go into that game with no contingency plan, no plan of action if he can't finish the football game, which opening kickoff, and that was it. I feel like in that game, and yes, he was done. Right. Come on, what was that? I mean, and then at that point, then you just give up on the extra points at all. You don't even give what you call a chance to maybe put a couple of them through the upright. I mean, I think he gave him one opportunity and he missed the one, and you say, all right, we're not even going to attempt that anymore. It's just like,
right. And he gets like you knew he was injured going forward, right? It's not like he played the game and he got injured. He was injured in the game and then re-injured himself longer, right? And that's what you get. The Giants play injured players all the time, but you don't have a backup. That's why you have a depth chart. That's why you had a practice squad guy. You could have elevated this kicker the day of, and you would have had a kicker on the roster, but you didn't have the foresight to see that. And then you can't score, so now you go for 2, and now you're losing games because you're running a rookie out there who's played what? This is the second NFL game. You're running 90 catches on the kid. No wonder he drops a pass in the late stages of the game because he's probably fatigued and not concentrating as much because he's beat up and banged up. And guess what? He got injured because you overused him. The guy had 100-something targets this year. Like, I get it, he's good, but Jesus Christ, talk about force feeding.
Well, he's also fighting hard for everything he's getting. You got to think he's pretty much only thing the defenses feel they need to pay much attention to. Yeah, so he's fighting hard for what he's getting out there, man. He's drawing all the attention, and that's where other players need to step up as well. This team's a mess, man. It's such a bad football team.
Let's move on from these bums.
At this point, let's go because we'll get to a lot more New York Giants in the upcoming weeks when more things start developing with this team. But right now, they're just a mess, man. They are. They're a complete and utter mess. I can't believe this is where we are as New York Giant fans. And
New York Giant pride, people. This is what you get.
So let's talk about some football games, man. Let's talk about some games that went down. The Eagles, Green Bay on Sunday afternoon, man. Packers came in to walking wounded in this one, man, and it showed. They never really were in this one at all. They got beat up pretty badly. The Eagles basically, made it look pretty easy, even though the final score was just 22-10. They made it look really easy. What is going on? Thanks for stopping in, 2 giant goofballs. But how'd you feel about this game on Sunday, Adam?
Well, I felt it is what it is. The Packers had no receivers out there that they could really rely on. The Eagles' defensive backs, were sitting on routes and being able to, win their matchups, and it allowed them to get pressure on Jordan Love, who's clearly a little banged up. And then the Packers are losing people as they go, and they didn't stop anybody. Their defense didn't do anything to stop anybody, and Saquon Barkley, that's what you bring him in here for, to rush the football, and that's what he did. And Hurst had to shake off some early rust, but he did, and was he spectacular? No. Was he good? Yes. Did they do what they needed to do to win? Yes. What I will say, though, the one thing that is concerning to me a little bit is the antics of A.J. Brown. This mug is reading a book on the sideline. Like, who are you trying to, be funny about? Like, what your team, get with the program, man. Like, your team is on the verge of getting, fulfilling its destiny and becoming a Super Bowl team, possibly winning. And you could be part of that legacy, that history. You know how many people win Super Bowls and go on to do nothing else in their career, and they aren't the greatest player, but they get all endorsements all over the place because they're a Super Bowl champion. Like, you don't understand what could be brought to you, right? But if they had lost that game and he's reading the book, people would have went on Nick Sirianni and everything like that. Those type of antics should not be happening on a winning football team. It means you're a malcontent. That's what it means. Yeah, you're not getting the ball. Too bad. You're not getting the ball. But, it is what it is. Meanwhile, you have Barkley, who people thought should have scored on that long run he was about to have, and he lied down. And that's what Barkley is. He's a classy guy. He doesn't do things for himself. He's a team-oriented guy. And I think what you're going to see at some point is A.J. Brown be traded in the next couple of off seasons, because while he is good, those type of things can derail a team that has business to attend to. Okay, thankfully, he didn't drop a football. If he comes out and drops a football this week, he'll have trouble. Let's flip it to the other side. The Packers have a lot. I'm not going to base Jordan Love on this game. We like to do that. Oh, Jordan Love stinks. He's bad. The guy had a bad game in the playoffs. Okay? Eli Manning didn't score a touchdown his first playoff game. He was shut out. Okay? But we don't remember Eli in the shutouts and the losses to the Eagles and to the Panthers his first 2 years. We remember the epic run that he had against, Tom Brady. We also forget that in 2008 against the Eagles, he didn't play his best game that game either in the playoffs, and we lost. But we don't talk about that because we want to remember him for the 2011 run that he made, a few years later. What people need to understand is the playoffs are not always guaranteed, and they are shorter, and things can go wrong. For example, Dak Prescott. Last year, he threw a couple interceptions, but he bounced back in the game where that performance should have won in the football game. Meanwhile, their defense didn't stop a nosebleed. But we blame Dak Prescott because that's what we do. Do I blame him for the pick six? I do. But my point is if you shake off the rust and you can get through those early hitches, your defense should be able to bail you out sometimes. And they didn't do that, right? The defense of the Packers didn't really bail out their offense much. They let the Eagles walk up and down the field. You know what I mean? That's what they did. The Eagles didn't have to, someone was telling about Kellen Moore and the games that they had to play. The games they had to play, they didn't have to do much in these games. They go on cruise control because they're that good. When they turn it on, they can score in bunches. But they didn't have to because they ran the ball. They had short passes. Dallas Goedert in that fucking beast of a run that he had, where he ran down the sideline for a touchdown, where he stiff-armed the DB, that's not helping out your offense when you can't make a tackle in the open field. So and this is what happens when you play the Eagles, is that when they score, you have to score too. And if you have Christian Watkins is out, Romeo Dobbs is banged up. He got banged up in the game as well. So they're running with guys that we didn't even know their names on the back of their jerseys last year. You could have ran me and you out there. Okay. It would have been the same probably fucking result for the Green Bay Packers. I don't want to, poo-poo Jordan Love and give him this title. He hasn't earned it yet. Okay, he won playoff games last year, if we forgot. He damn near went to the Super Bowl. Okay, he went to the divisional round of the playoffs and lost to the 49ers in a game they probably should have won, but he still lost. And he beat the Cowboys the week prior. So he's won playoff games and had playoff success.
He soundly beat the Cowboys.
Right.
By the way, he lit them up.
But we heavily scrutinize guys in the social media era for their performances. Like we talk, and we'll probably get into this tomorrow, but let me flip it to Bo Nix real quick. Bo Nix, they're like shitting on Bo Nix but he's a rookie. But he didn't drop passes. He put the ball where he needed to be. His guys let him down. Is that going to be the story that's going to be out there? No. Is it better to berate the quarterback? Yes, that's what get your clicks. That's what get you to, let me go read this article that I hate, right? That's what happens. And I'm tired of it. The kid had a bad game. I'm not exonerating Jordan Love here and saying, hey, he couldn't have played better. He could have. But he had one bad wheel playing with a bunch of guys who were on the street, and they did the best that he could. When Daniel Jones met an actual defense that could play, his no-name receivers that everybody was praising the week prior couldn't do a damn thing. But do we crush Daniel Jones for getting crushed by the Eagles? No. We're like, oh, look at the game against Minnesota. I should do the same thing with Jordan Love. Look at the game against Dallas. You know what I mean? We're not doing this anymore. I'm putting my foot down when it comes to these players.
I mean, some people may be questioning some of his decision-making in the game Sunday, which was some of that was a big question. But even though I hear everything, I agree with you with the injuries and how banged up this Green Bay team was. They really were a beat-up football team going into the postseason. And it didn't really look too good. I still thought they might have had a chance just because I still kind of like the matchup a little bit. But when once the game started, you kind of could see it, the writing was on the wall pretty much immediately that they weren't going to be able to keep up with the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles just slowed the game down, ran the ball right down their throat pretty much, and just did it that way. I mean, Jordan Love, those couple of interceptions were the one, especially the one to the linebacker, the Braun. That was a bad one. I mean, he threw it right to the guy, right to him. I mean, but like you said, guys have bad games, and this was a beat up team coming in, so there's no need to beat up a young player like him. I think he'll be back, and I think he'll be around. And he's obviously the Green Bay Packers quarterback going forward. They're not like they're going to move off of Jordan Love.
Let me ask you this question: if you had to choose between Jordan Love and Sam Darnold, who do you think stays on their team?
Oh, Jordan Love, but definitely.
All right, then. My point is, what I'm getting at is, I'm not going to shortchange Jordan Love because of a bad playoff game when he brought my team to, first off, we talk about playoffs. Back-to-back years, he's brought his team to the playoffs. He's played through injuries all years. He had a bad knee, played through. this year. Next year we'll see. Again, this is his second year starting. Like with CJ Stroud, teams get a read on you and can start to adjust to your game. It will be up to Jordan Love going forward to shake off this playoff loss and become the quarterback that we think he is. And if he delivers next year and they end up in the playoffs again, and maybe they get a better defense, and maybe they end up winning.
I mean, look, he's going to have his opportunities. I mean, this is a team that you feel like is still going to be a pretty solid football team going into next season. They're going to be in what's going to probably be for the next few years the most brutal division in football in the NFC North. I mean, those teams are absolutely loaded up there in that division, and that's going to be a very good division probably for some time. I think because you got the Chicago Bears that'll be coming around, and that'll only get better. Minnesota did maybe overachieve a bit this season, but I still think what they've got foundationally is that's still a pretty solid. They're going to be a solid football team as well. Continue to be in the Detroit Lions. We know what the Detroit Lions are right now, and they're a fucking juggernaut, especially when healthy. So he'll have a lot of opportunities to prove his worth. And I think this year was just more. It did have a little bit more to do with just everything else going on with the team. I mean, like I said, this was a very beat up football team going against a good Eagles team on the road. So in the postseason, so it didn't really look too promising for him anyway. I was only hoping they'd get the W because of the way I feel about the Philadelphia Eagles, which we all know. I hate them with their passion. But at the end of the day, Eagles did what they had to do, took care of that business, and they are now one step closer to maybe another trip
Well,
to the bowl, man. They got to go.
I know that I'm not trying to spoil this for people, but me and Mac are going to be picking the games in a few minutes, and I think I know where he's going to land. I'm probably going to land with him, but for different reasons, not the reasons that he's going to be doing it, but you can understand who he might be picking, judging by who he picked last week. So how the Eagles fans that got fired and banned from the stadium going forward. How the Eagles, so if you don't know, there was an Eagle fan calling a Green Bay Packer female some inappropriate names, got caught on camera, and for the Eagles probably banned him because they don't want to represent. They don't want to represent that kind of behavior. That kind of behavior goes on in a lot of stadiums. I'm not going to say that it was right or wrong. He probably shouldn't have called her those names. He probably should have just made fun of him and laughed that your team's losing. You don't have to necessarily name call and, do things. They're being hostile to visitor fans. That comes with the territory. But to say the derogatory things that he said towards this woman, and then, luckily he didn't get his, teeth knocked out. Because if that were me and he was doing that to my woman, she would have probably punched him. If not, I would have probably punched him. And it probably would have been a brawl, and I probably would have got beat up by 7 Eagle fans. But you're not going to call names to that. And you know why he did it to the girl is because he knew that he could do that. You do that to me. You want to call me an ugly cunt or whatever he used, or ugly Eagle fan. Sorry, females out there listening. Then fine, call me it, because I'll stand up to you and I'll call right back to your face. You look like a hemorrhoid or some shit, right? Or a gremlin or whatever the hell. I could take that. But to do that to a woman, that's not even heckling you, that's not even doing that, it's minding her business, that means you're weak. Okay? You're a weak old man.
It's just classless.
Did that to somebody. Again, I get it. I've been I've been a fan in stadiums. I've got, I was at an Eagle game. And I was cursing at the Giants and yelling at the Eagles, not necessarily at any player or anybody in particular. And Eagle fans got rowdy because I was yelling about their team. And I looked at them and said, I'm not talking about you, but if you got a problem, we can certainly, address it. And we, my loud mouth, got me into some trouble. But I'm not going to stand there and get punked either. But if I'm not talking to you, then mind your own business, right? This person was minding her own business, and you can say things. That's part of being a fan. Yo, your team stinks. Yeah, you stink. All right, we get it. But when you start to call the names and do like that and act unclassy and like a jerk, that's why the bad apple you get with the Eagle fan. Mac knows it. That's part of the reason why he hates the Eagles, is the fans of who they represent.
Yep.
And so when you have those representations, and trust me, it hasn't been until recently where I found some sane Eagle fans where I was, okay to be friends with them, right? I've had other Eagle fans where I'm like typical Eagle fan, being a douche or some type of weird comment that they would make that doesn't define all the Eagle fans, but gives you that bad taste in your mouth where you're like, I don't like their fans, right? Their fan base. So, here it is. Well, yes, Carlos, you're right. An Eagle fan, I'm disgusted by the fan behavior. There's a difference between talking trash and crossing the line. Yes, once you cross that line, I'll talk all the crap about your team I want, and I'll even talk about crap about like the players. Like, oh, yeah, this guy's a bum, blah, 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 whatever. Those are players. Again, it's like going to a comedy show. Yep. You're going to see some hecklers there. That's what you get paid. That's what they get paid for, right? You can do that to the $1 million athlete on the field because most likely you're not going to see them and they're not going to care and they're going to block it out anyways because that's what they do. But it's when fan-to-fan interaction. And we've seen worse things happen across state. Go to Las Vegas or go to Oakland, right? When they played in Oakland. You go mouth off to one of those fans. You may not be making it home that night, okay? And you go to San Francisco. There's been fights there too. There's been fights in Giant Stadium as well. But, fan decorum is fan decorum. If you go there and mind your business, most likely you're not going to get into too much trouble. If you go there and heckle Eagle fans, like, listen, I'll tell you a story. 2007 real quick, and then we can wrap it up with the Eagles. Went to a game, and me and my friend were just sitting there. 2 Eagle fans sat in front of us. We didn't really bother them. We got a sack, and we're like, yeah, high five. And they looked at us, and they go, yeah, okay. Or they said some sly to us. And so 12 sacks later, they left their seat about 8 sacks into the game. And we're like, what? I thought you said that wasn't going to happen all night. What was going to happen? So yeah, I've had my share of heckling fans, and we've heckled them so much, and the performance was so bad that they ended up leaving. But we didn't call them names. We didn't, do anything that was derogatory. We sat there, we played their joke back in their face, and that's what you do sometimes. But what you do when you're calling somebody like that, those words, and that they're not going to come at you, that's exactly what they do.
And I hear you, Carlos, but that still to me is not an excuse. If you can't control yourself, man, then to me it's not an excuse to be an asshole. Like you said, it's one thing you talking trash amongst fans, just fun trash talking. I do it all the time when I go to games, man. I sit right up in there, and I get right with them, man. I talk trash with the other fans, but I never, like you said, you never cross the line.
You boo that guy that gets up, gets the beer. You're like, boo! Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you see that stuff.
Yeah, you don't make it personal. You don't do the personal attacks and things of that sort. That's just there's no place for that. I've had a decent experience at a road game before up in Pittsburgh, actually, no less. Pittsburgh is a good football town. That's another places I've had had a good experience up there. The fans all day long were just great. It was fun. It was fun banter in between Giants and Steeler fans that day. I was up there, and it was great. I had a great time. It was definitely a place that I wouldn't mind going again for a game sometime on the road. So
it's a fan base that has a history of bad behavior. I mean, they had a jail down at the bottom of Veterans Stadium when it was built because of rowdy fans.
Snowballs at Santa Claus, bro.
Right. Exactly. So I wouldn't say it's par for the course, but it's typically what we hear about the Eagles, right? And that's what makes Giant fans.
Michael Irvin was being carted off the field with a career-ending injury, that fan base of the Philadelphia Eagles were applauding and cheering as Michael Irvin was getting carted off the field with a career-ending injury. So,
now, I'm not trying to par for the course, right? But I'm not trying to antagonize it. It's no place for doing it. And those people who threw the snowballs at Santa and actually it wasn't snowballs, it was batteries. Let's be honest, even worse than snowballs. The Giants threw snowballs against the Chargers back in '95. We all heard about that. Those guys get kicked out with batteries. But and listen, Eagle fans, won the Super Bowl, guy ate horse poop. He literally ate horse poop when they won the fucking. Let's be real. Horse poop. What am I, 5? He literally ate horse shit. Okay, he literally is on camera eating horse shit. Does that define everything? That they had to grease up the polls in Philadelphia because they didn't want the city to burn down when they won the Super Bowl. Okay, these are the type of behavior that happen from a fan base. Does it mean everyone's like that? No. But is this the history of the fans of the Eagles? Yes. I guarantee you played that clip across different fan bases and different outlets. They're just going to say typical Eagle fans, typical Eagle fans, typical Eagle fans.
Yeah, I mean it's good. It's good that the Eagles, as an organization, the organization took care of their business properly, banning this person from the stadium, and taking care of this young lady. Because I mean, obviously, it was definitely uncalled for. He goes on the road, see a playoff. I mean, I don't know where she could be. She could be a Philadelphia resident, for all we know. But
Right.
at the end of the day, you're at at a playoff game cheering for your team, which happens to not be the Eagles, the opposing team, and the Green Bay Packers, and this is unnecessary. It's stuff that doesn't belong.
And
But let's
nowadays,
move
last thing I'll
along.
say is nowadays everything's on camera. Everyone's a paparazzi. So it's better just to stay in your lane and not get heckled because everybody's got video evidence. That guy is all over the place. He got blasted on social media. They know his name. People know who he is now. He probably is going to, I wouldn't say loses his job, but I'm sure that this is not a good stain on him. And, it just goes to show, be careful what you wish for and talk to because that shit can come back and bite you in the ass like it did this guy.
Absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of the Eagles, let's finish them up, wrap them up with they got a big game on Sunday afternoon once again, man. Wow, we hosting the Los Angeles Rams coming off a big win Monday night against the Minnesota Vikings, man.
Like I'll be on his couch.
Los Angeles Rams, they're an interesting football team. You kind of never know what version of them you're going to get, but they can do some things offensively. They can put some points on the board as well, and they have some firepower. The defense is a bit can be questionable at times. But how do you see this matchup going, Adam, with the Eagles on Sunday?
Oh God. I kind of want I've always picked the Eagles as playoffs. Not because I am an Eagle fan, not because I like the Eagles, but because they wow, he did lose his job. That's crazy. Uh n- not that not an Eagle fan or any of that, just because they are a good football team. They're arguably the best football team in the NFC. Um, so the fact of the matter is I'm going with the LA Rams in this game because they're hot. They're playing hot. They got a lot, no pun intended with what's going on in their city, but they're a team that's galvanized by what's going on in their hometown of LA. They are a playoff ready team. This isn't their first rodeo. Okay, this is not like you're going with an inexperienced team. This is talk about Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. This team has won a Super Bowl. They've been to many playoff games. They've been to big playoff games. And I think if their defense can play this way now, mind you, Sam Darnold last week held on to the ball longer than the alphabet, right? The guy had held on to the ball forever. Do I think Hurts will do that? No, but I do believe that the Rams, if they are healthy, they do lose a couple guys. If they can keep the offense of the Eagles somewhat in check, they'll have a chance in this game to do some things. Offensively, they have some weapons. The Eagle defense has been playing well as of late, and the Eagle defense basically keeps their team in the game until their offense gets going. It's good to have a defense like that, but that's what they do. And I'm picking the Rams just because I think they're hot. They're one of the hottest teams going into the playoffs. I think they're still kind of riding that wave. Doesn't mean that I probably will be wrong, and end up, eating crow next week or eating eagle next week because I'm picking them. But right now, I picked the Rams last week in an upset to beat Minnesota. And so I'm going to stick with the Rams with the upset here against Philadelphia.
Well, I'm gonna try a little bit of reverse technique this year, this week, man. I keep going against the Eagles. I keep hoping somebody upsets them, and it just keeps not happening. So maybe if I go the other way and actually pick
Reverse
them,
psychology here.
maybe they'll actually lose. And
Wow.
so I'm going with the Eagles here at
I did
home
not see
again.
that coming. I did not have that on the bingo card tonight. If you want to use that catchphrase that
I
everyone's
gotta, I
using now.
gotta, I gotta try to switch it. I need these guys to lose and get out of here, man. I just can't take it. I can't take fans. They drive me crazy on a daily basis. Uh, so I just kind of
Well, I'm pretty
I want to
right.
get these
Normally
guys
I
up
pick
out of
that same
here
thing.
by hook or crook.
But see, you're doing it on a different
And
thing.
I'm
You're doing it on the fan basing level because you hate the Eagles. It's not like, hey man, they're not a good team. I don't think I've heard Mac acknowledge, no offense, not that they're Roman Reigns or anything, acknowledge that the Eagles have been good. It's always been, well, their defense is going to let them down, and their offense is this, and this team's going to beat them for 17 straight weeks. We've been doing this show, and he's basically picked against the Eagles every week. This is the first time I've heard him actually pick the Eagles, so I am shocked. I am shocked.
I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna pick them to get the job done at home. I look like you said it best. I think they are the best team, and it's no disrespect to the Detroit Lions. I just think right now, currently, I mean, with things
They're
The
most
Lions, some
healthiest
of the
team.
things the Lions are dealing with on, especially defensively. Yeah, the Eagles are very healthy, and even if they're not that healthy, they have such great depth that it almost doesn't matter anyway. They're probably, like I said, the best depth in the NFL, and it's hard for me to admit that, but it's true. I mean, they put together a very rock solid roster in Philadelphia, and I think at home they're going to be a lot to handle. The Rams, I mean, Puka is he proven that he was definitely not a one hit wonder. He definitely proved that his value. He proved his worth, that he is legit. And Cooper Cup is he's still Cooper Cup, and I like with the ability of Kyron Williams as well, and Matthew Stafford.
Puka
Definitely a
Nakua.
veteran guy that knows what it takes to get the job done. But I just feel like on the road in Philadelphia, man, the Eagles can beat you so many different ways. If you try to focus your energy on stopping Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts is going to just be hitting AJ Brown and Devontae Smith over the top all day
And Dallas
long,
Goddard. Let's not forget
and
about
it's
that.
vice versa. And Goddard and Dallas Goddard. It's just vice versa. If you focus on trying to slow the passing attack down, then you got opening things up for Saquon Barkley. So it's just it's hard to know even how to attack the Philadelphia Eagles offense. So just for that
You
reason,
know how to
I'm gonna
attack
go
them
with
is
the
score
Eagles
points.
here.
That's the only way to attack them is score points.
Pretty much, that's what it
That's
pretty
it.
much takes. You just got to outscore them,
And hope
and
and
it's not
hope
always the
that they have
easiest
like
thing
a
in the world to
fumble
do.
or something that you can take care of. Because remember we were talking about Jalen Hurts at the beginning of the year, and he had a couple turnovers in the Saints game and the Atlanta game, and he was not having a great start. He was taking over from what he did last year. And then he went to the bye week, and they tweaked a few things, and now he's been virtually, not the same quarterback in terms of turnovers. So if somehow they can revert him back and get a couple turnovers, because that's what they did. That's what the Rams did to Minnesota. They basically got up 27-3 and just put on cruise control the rest of the way. Not saying you're going to be able to do that with the Eagles, but you're going to need those turnovers that you created, fumbles, maybe a defensive score. That's the only way you're going to be in this game.
Give me 1 second, Carl. I'm gonna come back and answer you in 1 second. I did want to address this real quick as when I saw this comment come from Giant Goofballs come up. If Stafford was to become available, look,
Don't even think
honestly,
about
I
it.
would never have a problem with a Matthew Stafford, but at the end of the day, I just don't think Matthew Stafford at this stage of his career would want to be a part of what's going on with the New York Giants right now. I
No,
just don't think
no.
at this point he has a ring already. He knows he's not going to get one here. I just don't I just don't think he would come here unless the New
Matthew
York
Stafford
Giants
comes
gave him
here.
an
He's
obscene
retiring
amount of
after year
money.
one. He's retiring after year one.
Yeah, I just don't really see that. But says, can I honestly ask y'all, as true Giant fans, how do y'all feel about Saquon? Because I didn't think he would run for 2,000 yards. He over exceeded my expectations.
Not
Well, I
me.
think a lot of people know how I feel about Saquon Barkley. I was extremely angry that we didn't take care of Saquon Barkley a couple of years ago, let alone allowing him to walk out the door last year. And granted, yes, would he have gotten 2,000 yards with the Giants? Of course not. He would have still had probably a big year. He would be Saquon Barkley. He's a very talented running back. I would have loved to see him with the addition of Malik Neighbors to this offense. There would have been a way to not have to defenses to not focus their energies attention so much on Saquon Barkley like they have been throughout his entire career, basically here. But at the end of the day, look, I'm a big Saquon Barkley fan. I'm not, and it's hard to watch him in that uniform. But at the end of the day, my feelings about Saquon Barkley have not changed. And I know always knew he was a phenomenal talent, and the New York Giants just, I think, completely mishandled that whole situation all across the board, in my opinion. But Adam, I know you probably feel a little differently
Well,
than me about it, but
listen, I like Saquon Barkley. I didn't think he needed to stay here in terms of the rebuild. I did not want him. If you were going to get rid of Daniel Jones, which they did, I would have got rid of both of them. But at the end of the day, I understood who he was, right? I knew who he was. When he was rookie of the year and went for 1,300 yards, I knew who he was. Okay. I knew that if he went to the Eagles and had an offensive line, he's going to have a big year. I said probably lead rushing. I didn't think 2,000 yards, but I thought he would have 1,800 or something like that, some ridiculous number like that, which is still hard to come by because he's done 1,300 with the Giants 2 years, the two healthiest years of his career here. He was an absolute beast. Okay. And we take him for granted because we're Giant fans. We're in New York and we had a bad offensive line. You give this guy a great offensive line, he puts up 2,000 yards. I mean, that's just who he is. He's got breakaway speed. He can do it. And what I think he did better this year was run between the tackles and contact, where he was running over people more so than he did with the Giants. See, with the Giants is when you are the best player on your team, you have to play hero ball. And sometimes that gets you hurt. And sometimes that costs you yards because instead of seeing the backside run, you're trying to make a highlight worthy play. With the Eagles, he don't got to do that. He runs to that A gap, and all he's got is one man to beat instead of having 10 guys in the backfield. All right. So I knew that if when he went to the Eagles, I said it was a wrap right there. I knew it was bad news. I like Saquon Barkley like the next guy. I thought he did a great job here. I think the Giants, we gave the excuses for Daniel Jones, right? Oh, well, we mistreated him. We did this, we did that. Well, the guy who got mistreated the most that didn't say a word was Saquon Barkley because he was an actual superstar on our offense. And all he did was go out there and perform no matter what, get you 200-yard games, run for, 100 yards, hurdle man, do this, do that. And we didn't say a damn word about the offensive line when it came to him. But when the quarterback was fucking up and literally legitimately fucking up like an asshole, right, we blamed everything else but the quarterback, right? But when it was Saquon Barkley's turn, we didn't have any excuses for him. And so for me, when he moved over to the Eagles and that running game, I knew that he was going to be able to not get hit in the backfield, get 5 yards a clip because that's what they're gonna do, and that's what he's averaged, about 4.5 yards, I think, a clip. Let me just double check that for you guys just to make sure. I don't want to give you false information, but
it's definitely something like that and around about that for sure.
So and he's the reason why this team is where they are right now. They're in the playoff picture / Super Bowl picture because of this guy. They had DeAndre Swift last year, and he was a good player, but he down the stretch wasn't that good. He averaged 5.8 yards a carry. That is insane to think about. 5.8 yards a carry. So I just said 5 yards a carry with the Eagles. His best year with the Giants, he got 5.0. That was rookie year. The other year that he ran with the bad offensive line that we talked about was year 2022, which wasn't a bad O-line. He ran for 4.4 yards. He got 1,300 yards on that year. And then this year is the other best year, 5.8, right? So, and he had 13 TDs. So the guy's got 48 TDs in his career. He's got 7,000 yards. A couple more years like this, and you're going to see him in Canton, Ohio.
Thanks a lot, Carlos. Appreciate it, man, for stopping in, bro. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you just said it best. Look at Saquon Barkley. He had a couple of 1,300 yard seasons behind the New York Giants O line. What do you think was going to happen when he went to and
A
started
good
and
team.
ran behind one of the best O lines in football? I mean, let's face it. Like, what did you think was really going to happen? I mean, if he was being able to accomplish that with the New York Giants, I mean,
Right. Just like we
I
said
think he
with
would. I
Malik
honestly
Neighbors.
believe he would go in.
Just like we said with Malik Neighbors. What would he be doing if he had a quarterback, right? A good quarterback. We would think that this guy would be at top of the league
Exactly.
in receiving, right? So the same thing happens with Saquon
He,
Barkley. You give a great talent, a great team, they're going to perform great.
exactly, and that's just what it is. He said, "Would he go in as a Giant?" I mean, that's yet to be determined. I think he could. I think that's a possibility. I think a lot of guys around the league never forget where things got started for him at, and he for
I
what
think
it's
he'll
worth,
just go to the Hall of
he
Fame.
had it's not he had a good run with the New York Giants. It just things just never worked out because the Giants couldn't get out of their own way. I mean, couldn't do things the right way. I mean, like I said, there's a reason why his best statistical year with the Giants was rookie season. Eli Manning, Odell Beckham. These guys. I mean, you had other offensive players, other offensive talents on the team that defenses had to account for and worry about. So there was a reason why that was his best statistical year with the Giants. Was his very first year as rookie season. That's not a coincidence, folks. That's the reason. After that, they gave Saquon. There was nothing else around Saquon Barkley. Defenses would come in and week out. You think they're worrying about anybody else on the New York Giants offense? No, they were just worried about
Who was
don't
the
let
quarterback in
Saquon Barkley
2018?
beat you.
Who was the quarterback in 2018?
In 2018,
Yeah, his rookie year.
his rookie year was Eli Manning.
Of
Still the
course. So
quarterback.
my point
That was Eli's
is
last year starting. Yeah.
people respected Eli Manning enough to not put 8 in the box, to not put 9 in the box and go one-on-one. They didn't when Daniel Jones was under center. They just didn't. And that's why he, in those middle years, had muddy type of performances, because when you clearly are getting blitzed every 5 minutes and they're putting 10 in the box because they know your quarterback can't read a defense to save his life, they don't have anything to worry about. Same thing happened with Malik Neighbors this year. They don't, when you don't have anything else to worry about because you're not worried about the guys under center, it changes everything. The Eagles have potent players all over the place, and their quarterback can deliver the football, and it changes everything. But we've spoken enough about Saquon. We have one more team and one more game.
We got to move on to the Washington Commanders in the primetime spot Sunday night in against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it was a pretty solid game. I unfortunately did not catch much of it because I was not feeling very well and had to take it down a little early that night, unfortunately. But Jaden Daniels, once again, man, doing what it takes to get his team over the hump, man. I mean, I still cannot say more tremendous things about him, and I think that Rookie of the Year is 1,000% locked up now for sure. If anybody thought there was any question that somebody else could potentially steal this away from this young man, I think that's all the way in doubt now. And I think Jaden Daniels, like I said, he's him, and the Washington Commanders knew what it took. They got their guy last season in the draft in April, and now away they go, man. And what's going on? No mess, no nest, no jets, man. I'm glad you made it in, man. Before we ended wrapping things up this week, bro. Appreciate you as always. But yeah, how do you feel about this matchup on Sunday night with the Buccaneers and the Commanders?
I thought, I picked the Commanders to win. I thought it was, a way to. I thought they were a hot team. I thought Tampa Bay was not, the hottest team. They were facing a different team that they saw in week 1, a guy who never played in the NFL. Now you got 17 weeks. And I just think that Jaden Daniels, when you give that guy a chance to win the game, he's delivered. And Baker Mayfield knew it after he made that turnover. Now, the problem with me is I slept through like the last few minutes of the game and woke up to them kicking the field goal, right? So, so that's what is happening with him. So I think they got their best, quarterback right now in the draft. And you see what a guy can do when he changes the dynamic of your team. They're in the playoffs. Not to mention they're in the playoffs, but they're going to the divisional round, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this guy is legitimate. Like Max said, they found their quarterback of the future. To me, there's a different demeanor about him. He doesn't look like I said to somebody recently That Bo Nix looks like he's hurried when he plays the game. He looks like he's always rushing to do something, right? Rush, 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 rush. Jay Daniels looks smooth as a cucumber. He's just sitting there chilling. Yep, we're down by 3. We're down by a touchdown. No problems, no worries. He makes the smart decision. I've never seen a quarterback not put the ball in harm's way, not get rattled this way. Like even Eli, who couldn't get rattled, threw the ball in harm's way. This guy just takes what the defense gives you, makes his shots, does what he does, deadly with his legs. Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry's now woken up from the dead, literally risen from the dead. People counted this guy out, said, oh, it's Terry McLaurin, blah, blah, blah. Now he's getting the actual legitimacy that he deserves, that me and Mac have always seen in a guy like Terry McLaurin, because he has a quarterback that people fear. And, listen, they're not going to cut down the designed runs only because that's part of the game. That adds to the element of his game. I'm sorry to tell you this, but gone are the pocket passers, and yes, they are going to seek him out. That's what they're going to do. That's what you've been taught. That's called good defense. It's up to the Commanders to adjust and not do that. Eventually, like I forget what play did. Oh no, it was the Eagles. The Eagles did a fake tush push. It didn't work, but they did a play action tush push, right? And they threw it for a long bomb that scored, but was brought back because of a penalty, right? So what you're doing in these games and putting out on film is to set people up. I wouldn't be surprised when they play Detroit this week that, and by the way, Detroit doesn't do well against mobile quarterbacks, that, if he doesn't get exposed, that'll change some of the game up. And he has to also know to get down and throw. When you have a guy like a Lamar Jackson, like a Jaden Daniels, do you want them to use their legs constantly? No, you'd like them to use their legs when it's man on man and they can run for yardage. But is there an element of the game now where defenses are different? Yeah. Back in the day, when you played a Randall Cunningham or you played a Michael Vick, you had to literally have a spy on that guy because of what he would do outside the backfield. Nowadays, the colleges weren't like this back in the day, but now back in the day, everybody runs some type of zone read, some type of RPO. The RPO has ruined the NFL because the RPO is what's putting these quarterbacks in harm's way. And if you got a guy that can run a 4.2 or 4.3 or whatever the case may be and can RPO it, it adds an extra element to the game. And that's what they want to do, because when you played a quarterback that was a pocket passer, you advantage defense because I didn't need to worry about him running. Now, when you play a guy like Jaden Daniels, advantage offense, because now I have to take a defender from somewhere to cover this guy, which is going to take a defender away from coverage against their receivers, right? And once they get a good receiver like a T. Higgins or something like that, because they should spend money on a legitimate second receiver next to Terry McLaurin, that's what's going to open it up. And eventually, you'll see him turn into Lamar Jackson, where he will learn that his best bet is to stay in the pocket, because that's where he's going to get the most flags drawn for, roughing the passer and all that, outside of them being a runner. We've seen guys who have shortened their careers. Don McNabb is a big guy. Like, he's the guy who shortened his career because he just was too fearless, broke his legs a lot, and it didn't help him. Dante Culpepper, got injured a lot as well. You had other guys. Randall Cunningham got banged up, and that's why in 1998 he became a pocket passer. But right now, while he's young, utilize his legs while you can. And then as he grows into it, hopefully you can scale it back and it won't be as pertinent as it is right now.
I mean, I think you just said something. What you just said, like you add once you get to a point where you can get this team, which now Washington will be an attractive spot for free agents and such. People are going to want to go there, and like you said, you add a few more weapons to this offense, and it can really open things up a little bit more. Than Jaden Daniels doesn't necessarily have to use his legs as much. He can use them more as a necessity, as a necessity in certain situations, as opposed to necessarily calling so many design QB runs and such of that thing. So those things all come into account too as you move forward. And I think, like I said, the Washington Commanders, they're going to be an interesting team to keep an eye on once they get to their off season and start really, dabbling into the free agency market and such. Because people are, it's a spot teams are going to want to go. People are going to want to be a part of what's going on. They completely flipped the culture of this franchise around this last couple of years, man. Completely have flipped the culture around, and it's a whole different ball game now, and people want to. People are going to want to be a part of what they got going on, man. They got some work to do defensively. I still feel like, and hopefully take care of some of those things in this off season. But I just believe that this Washington Commanders team is definitely an NFL franchise that is trending back upward, and they're going to get back to what
Never
they were
thought I'd see the
known
change.
more of in the '70s when they were like a franchise in the '70s where they were one of the most legit franchise. Even they weren't necessarily winning a bunch of titles in the '70s,
80s,
but they were
they were good
still a
too.
legit '70s, '80s. They're a legit franchise, man, in this league that a well respected franchise,
Early
and
90s
they've
as well. We
lost a
won
lot
three
of
Super
that throughout the.
Bowls.
Yeah, they've lost a lot. They lost a lot of that respect during the course of these 2000s and stuff like that. This 21st century, but they're back on their way back up. So just look forward to seeing what they got going on, man. And they got a tough one on Saturday night, man. They got a tough one. They're back in the prime time slot, though. Yet they find themselves back in the prime time slot. This time on
Why?
the road.
I wonder
We're
why,
still on the
Mac.
road, obviously,
I wonder why.
but people want to see this guy. Yeah, so they put him back in the prime time slot Saturday night, going to Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. Now this is an offense that's just not going to be easy to score points with the Detroit Lions. As great as Jaden Daniels has been this year, it's going to take a very Herculean effort, probably Saturday night, to go in there and hang with Detroit. What's your thoughts on that one, Adam?
I think it's a great matchup for the Commanders to really, you know, test themselves. I think they have a puncher's chance because of Jaden Daniels. You know, their defense is not spectacular, but again, we've said that all year, and they've come up in big moments. What they need to do is run the football because the Lions are susceptible to run. Make sure that you convert your first downs and make sure you score touchdowns because again the Lions have had trouble with mobile quarterbacks on defense and their defense has been banged up. Now against Sam Darnold the week prior they make Sam Darnold see ghosts and I think it Sam Darnold played right into their defensive hands because he doesn't move, he doesn't run. You know, Jaden Daniels will be able to run. He'll be able to see a lane and go, and that can help extend a drive. That can help get a play downfield. So I really am excited about this matchup. I really want to see them go out there, and I'm going to pick another upset this week. I'm going with the hot team, the Commanders. They were hot all season. They won 12 games for a reason. Their coach is going to have them ready to play. You know, we talk about the Lions all the time and how they're ready to play. Maybe they're a team of destiny. The Lions are, and truly, you know, they're getting a matchup that they've never seen before. We've never seen really Detroit play the Commanders, and we'll get to see a marquee matchup, something that you don't get to see. And I'm like I said, I'm if this were like it's like that you ever watch Cool Runnings, right? And you watch all the people they get their Jamaica shirts on, right? For Jamaica team to win a medal and do it and get that finish line and they eventually end up crashing, but they're proud of the effort that those guys gave. Well, I think it's going to be similar. You got that Jaden Daniels jersey on, you're going to rock it. He's going to come in, he's going to be box office again. And where there's Jaden, there's magic. And I know the Detroit Lions are a good team. I know that they're the favorite, but there's something about this kid that just, sometimes he delivers in big moments and big spots. So
I mean, okay, that's interesting, Brandon. Welcome to the stream, Brandon. I mean, yeah, that's it's kind of crazy because saying NFC North had three teams in, and two of them already have exited. But I think Detroit's a different kind of animal, and that you may see that change this week. Unfortunately, I got to go with the Detroit Lions here, only based off of I love everything that we've seen from Washington this season. They've definitely fought tooth and nail with everybody, man, that they've come across. Even in defeat, they've still managed to look very respectable, even in defeat. But the problem is, when you look at those five losses, they're pretty much the five best teams they played against all season for the most part. And and that's where it makes me gives me a hard time to pick them in this game on the road, hostile environment. Detroit, a team that came so close a season ago to making their Super Bowl dreams come true. And even though defensively they're beat up, it still has no effect on what they're able to do offensively. And what the Detroit Lions are able to do offensively, man, it's downright scary. And the fact that they should be getting David Montgomery back in the lineup, so they had the 1-2 punch of him and Gibbs back in that backfield. And we obviously know what this team can do. Kirk Cousins. What the hell was I getting?
Jared Goff.
Jared Goff. Jared Goff. But Jared Goff is able to. He's clean for the most part. He's had a couple of games here and there that have been questionable, but he's for the most part pretty clean. What he can do with the football, and he doesn't make a lot of the big mistakes. And they got a lot of they got a lot of big playmakers.
Sorry,
but this team definitely. I think Detroit they're just I think a little too much offensive firepower. And like I said, I believe in what the ability of Jaden Daniels and this what he brings to this Washington team. I just don't think it's going to be quite enough against the Detroit Lions on Saturday evening. I think that it's just too much offensive firepower in Detroit. Getting David Montgomery back is a game changer for that offense. I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is phenomenal, but he's so much more phenomenal and more explosive when he's bouncing when he's playing off of David Montgomery as well, and they get to utilize both of those two running backs who have completely different styles. And I think the Detroit Lions end up beating the Washington. I don't think it's going to be any. I don't think they're embarrassing the Washington. I think Washington will still go out there and they'll be punching back. I just don't think it'll be quite enough against the Detroit Lions. I think Detroit's going to have a little too much firepower and get the job done. I think it'll be a very good game, a fun game to watch Saturday night, though. Good way to enjoy a Saturday evening, man. Get your popcorn ready.
Sure is.
But if you had got anything else, man, we can get ready to wrap things up this week, man.
I think I'm good. You covered everything.
Divisional matchups.
Look forward to next week. Let's see if our predictions hold.
Absolutely, man. Let's see if
the question is,
Commanders can give us a.
Will this be one of our last shows? Because if the Eagles and Commanders go, it'll be a wrap-up show next week. If one of them goes, folks, to the next round, we'll be here, and we'll be here all the way till the last team of the NFC East is standing.
Absolutely. So we will see, man. Maybe one of them will actually get to the bowl, man. We'll see, man.
Wow.
We will. That's the only time we'll tell. A couple more weeks, we'll know. But
you put that in the airspace.
Go, real quick shout out. I always try to find some little point of positivity with the New York Football Giants, and it's very, very difficult. But this past week, the New York Giants' entire rookie draft class looks like, in some form, made the all-rookie team. So that's a little something to hang your hat on, I suppose. I mean, I know I feel like that's truly what saved his job. It's just that he did do a good. I mean, you can't knock the draft class from this past season. They were all pretty productive young men, pretty productive players, and that is positive. It's a positive note on the New York Giants that every rookie that the New York Giants drafted this past season landed on the all-rookie team. Two of them on the first team all-rookie team, and that would be Malik Neighbors and Tyler Nubin, if I'm not mistaken. So, all right, that's it. That's all I got. I just always try to find something positive to speak on the New York Giants, man. So I can, like you said, I can appreciate that. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that part right there. There's another team we'd be praising it. So yeah, we're gonna praise it for the Giants too, even though the Giants had an absolutely abysmal year. They had some pretty good rookies, and the rookies contributed. Unfortunately, no one else really did very much. I mean, other than Dexter Lawrence for the most part. So that's about it. So that's all I got for this week, man. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always, man. Anybody you're new to the channel, man, subscribe. Make sure you hit that like for the stream. Subscribe to Adam. Subscribe to myself. Subscribe to the Hardcore Sports Network. We definitely appreciate y'all. We will be back next Wednesday. Hopefully not for a wrap-up show, but we'll see if the Eagles and Commanders, if they advance, we'll keep it going, man, until there are no NFC East teams standing, man. So I'm your boy, Mac the Giants fan. This is my guy, the super dope co-host, Adam Costas. And we'll be back next Wednesday, same time, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace! I'd like to thank you all for listening. If you was feeling this, please take time to subscribe and smack them likes. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Don't forget to ring that bell so you know when I'm dropping new content. It's your boy, Mac the Giants fan. You can find me on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Mac the Giants fan. That's MacDa Giants fan.